Praise the Lord. Thank you for coming. The name is Jasper Tumuhimbise, Pirirwe Sarongo. And Narongo is around, just behind that pillar. Okay? And we have been married for 9,825 days today. Those of you who want to calculate, just convert. And our firstborns, of course, are twins, because we are Narongo Salongo. They are both here. I saw Jasmine, Lisa, and then Jason, and they are both lawyers. And their age is about 9,476 days. If you want to wed any of them, you must come knowing how old you are in number of what? Days. That's how our family is, and we enjoy one another. Praise the Lord. Thank you for coming once again. Thank you, management of this cathedral, for allowing me to minister. The topic today is living by faith, a life exclusive to a believer. Living by faith, a life exclusive to a believer. And I will begin by giving a testimony of a man called E.V. Hill. E.V. Hill was an evangelist, born in 1933. And when he was about 5 years old, there were 5 children. The economy was so tough, the mother took him to another mother, whom he used to call Mama, in a home called Sweet Home. And Mama used to pray for him. When he was in high school, he prayed, and he was the only one who passed. Then after passing, he goes on to say that Mama said, please go and report at the Prairie College in USA, and they're waiting for you. And he gave him one way ticket, and $5 to go and report. He said, Mama, but do we have any evidence of a call? She said, no, Mama is praying, and I know where I have sent you. So he goes, joins the lines, and he moved close, and he heard that they needed $80. He had in his pocket $1.90. And he was like, I'm going to be embarrassed, but he would still hear Mama is praying. And then when he was the second to the line, the lady who was in front of him cleared, and so it was next. And before he began explaining why he has no $78 plus, somebody touched him and asked him, are you E.V. Hill? He said, yes, I am E.V. Hill. He is Eddie, actually. He said, no, you are in a wrong line. He said, why? And his name was Dr. Drew. His story says that, no, we are in a wrong line. If you are from this place, in a home called the Sweet Home, you are on a scholarship for 4 years, and you'll be paid $30 every month. Now, he wasn't saved, but that day he converted, and he became a prayer warrior. Why? Because Mama prayed, and Mama showed him things that are invisible to humankind. And so when we listen to these testimonies, some of us are like, maybe, probability, others chance, but let me tell you, our God is real. And he operates by faith. He operates by faith. And you being here, let me tell you, even if you have no faith, just to check where you come from, or even where you passed today, there is a level of faith in you which brought you what? Here. It is only the key to activate it that I'm going to tackle. Because from childhood up to the end, we actually live a life of faith, whether we know it or not. And I might pray that you will know that faith. And we are going to use the case study of Moses, a boy born through faith, raised by faith, and he raised himself in a tyrant's home. Pharaoh then, he's a prince, a top prince, but he chooses to go by faith the other way, and then comes and leads the biggest team at that time, 2 million people, about 2 million people, leading them alone from Egypt, and they are going to what? The land of Canaan. I mean, I lead a team of about 70 people, but I live by faith. I can't say, I almost said something tough, but I can assure you it is tough every day. But he's leading 2,000 people who are using the Tresassan system, which we shall see. Egypt had a system of conforming, and then he's leading them. And this man leads them up to where God had said he leads them. So let's pray. Father, it is only you who can activate people's faith. My prayer this evening, my God and my King, is that those online and those of us here will now activate that key of faith, so that through that life, we shall be able to see your glory. So through the life of Moses, a life that from birth to death was exclusive by faith, I pray that each one of us will live by that same faith through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. We turn our Bibles to the book of Hebrews, chapter 11. Now, the book of Hebrews, nobody clearly knows who wrote it, and that is also helpful. Some people say Paul, others say Apollos. So I'm not going into the theology of who wrote or who never wrote. But it is included among the books because it conforms to the whole Bible. But then secondly, it is the book of faith. That's where you see faith active through the blood of the Lamb. And then chapter 11 is actually specifically the chapter of faith. The chapter of faith. If you have a pen, please write these 4 things. Verse 1 talks about confidence. The chapter of faith. Confidence in faith. That now faith is the confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. That when you see something, you no longer need faith to have it. But when you haven't seen, then you will hope, and then through that hope, have faith that you'll be able to obtain it. Of course, many of us, when you go to study, we have faith that we shall get a what? A degree. That's a faith, and it is activated through hope. But the moment you get a degree, then you don't need the faith to get a degree. Are we clear? You can have faith to get 2 masters like my sister. By the way, you have encouraged me. I know what to do. My family, prepare. You get it? That's it. That when you have something, you don't need the faith to have it again. You can look for faith to use it or how to use it. But it means that whatever we hope for and we obtain, then we do not need faith. So that's confidence. Secondly, verse 2. Verse 2 talks about this is what the ancients were commended for. Faith is commendable. Not only confident, but faith is also what? Commendable. And that the only thing, the difference between a Christian and non-Christian, a person of faith and one without faith, is that commendation. And commendation is from who? From God. That actually looks around and says, my daughter, my son, well done. Commendation from God. And he commends us through what? Through faith, and faith in him, as we are going to see. So commendation. So can God commend you in that office? Can he commend you in that family that actually my daughter, my son has faith? And you see they are saying that ancients were commended. And I will read, of course, the ancients, what he means. They were very few. In other words, this world is held by the faith of very what? Very few people. And your family can actually survive and thrive through your what? Through your faith. But sometimes we are lied around that numbers. No, God is commending somebody who is what? Who is alone. And I will come to it slightly later. Then number 3 is command. Verse 3 is clear that by faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. The invisible produced what we now see. So when you see the whole world and all that is contained in it, God used just one command, the command of faith. That creation is by faith. And let me tell you, even your life, the probability for you to be born, to come to Kampala, be seated in All Saints Cathedral, be listening to a village man is zero. But you know, by faith, God commands things to do what? To happen. Amen? That's it. That your uniqueness, that your life is actually the command of God by what? By faith. And he says, elsewhere in Psalm 139, verse 13 and 14, that you are wonderfully and uniquely what? Made. It is a command. So if you have a problem with the way I look, you have a problem with the one who commanded the way I look. If you have a problem with the village I come from, you have a problem with the one who put me there. Because it was by his what? Command that Jasper is born, and born in this place, and he's a Muchiga by profession, and then a Jap by vocation. I'm a Japadora by vocation. Amen? And that's by God's what? Command. The last one is confirmation. Verse 6. That you see, when we have faith, we shall conform to the pattern of God, not the pattern of this world. Let's read verse 6. And it is interesting. Of course, commendation is also in verse 5, and that he has commended as one who pleased God. But listen to this. And without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists, and he rewards those who earnestly seek him. That's conforming. That actually, if you have a life of conformation, you have a life that pleases God. Because your dependence will not be on your mind or capacity to think, or even on your vigor, the ability to do things, it will be on God. So even this morning, for you to get up, let me tell you, it is simply because you are conforming to the word of God. And every breath comes because God has directed so. So if you conform, you please him, but after pleasing him, you get a reward. And we are going to see now a man who got a what? A reward. He left what the world calls rewards and got a what? A real reward. Believing in God who can actually overturn these economies which are big simply because of you. Before I go to Moses, let me explain this chapter. This chapter will talk about very few people. It talks about Abel, who was killed by Cain. Then it goes to not Adam, but to Enoch, who walked with God. Chapter 5, verse 5 onwards. Then it goes to who? To Noah, who walked with God. Then it jumps very many, goes to Abraham, to Isaac, to Jacob. Now from Jacob it goes to Joseph. From Joseph to Moses, verse 23. And that's where I want us to concentrate. Because how come they are not talking about firstborns, those who lived, on Sunday I was telling you, the oldest man in the Bible never lived by faith. His name is Methuselah. Genesis chapter 5, verse 27. He lived 969 what? Years. But we don't find him among the what? The giants of faith. You know why? Because, it is not the age which you are dying on. It is whether you are praising and serving God. Moses, interestingly, lived at 120 years and his eyes never needed glasses, just like mine. You get it? They never needed glasses. And it is interesting, I will mention it later, that Moses walked to his death. God said, okay, you say bye-bye. I don't know how I would handle. Bye-bye, bye-bye. Then they cried and he moved on the mountain. And then God took him and buried him. He was buried. In other words, he first died and he was buried, because we know that the devil fought for his body. That's Jude chapter 1. Jude has one chapter, so I don't have even to say which chapter. But in Jude, you'll find that the devil wanted the body of Moses so that he dresses in it to take back the what? The children of Israel. But I'm not about that. I'm about the fact that when you are pleasing to God, even your death actually is good. When you are pleasing God, your birth is not only a miracle, but even your lifestyle pleases God all along. Of course, Moses faltered, as we are going to see. But his faltering did not take away the grace of God or his capacity to lead people from Israel. So, we have about 5 things on Moses on faith. Number 1, faith at birth. Faith at birth. The reader read for us very well, verse 23. By faith, Moses, Moses' parents hid him for 3 months after he was born because they saw he was not ordinary child and they were not afraid of the king's edict. The edict was, you have a boy, please throw to the Nile. That was the edict. And by the way, Pharaoh's edict, Nebuchadnezzar's edict, you refuse them at your own what? Risk. It is death. So imagine the prayer of a mother who is pregnant. Oh God, give me a girl. I think prayer has changed. God, girl. And if she gets born, the one who is born is a what? Is a male. And he's called Moses. The Bible says that they saw that he was no ordinary child, that he was handsome. Now, for every mother really, by the way, even the mother moves, sees her baby as what? As very handsome, more beautiful, whatever sex. But you listen to this, that they saw something in what? In him. That they were saying, yes, others are throwing their children to the Nile. And by the way, it wasn't willingly, because the Pharaoh would get you and kill the whole family. You get it? But now they held on. What a mother. What a mother. Of course, there was a testimony of a mother praying for what? For her child. What a mother. She holds on. Beyond all what? Beyond all hope and risk. Because, 1, this boy was no ordinary what? Child. Then secondly, they were not afraid of the king's verdict. For how many months? 3 months. Those are 90 days. You can imagine every other day the child would cry, and I think they would hold his what? And we, of course, when we read it, that's in Exodus chapter 2, verse 1 to 10. Please write it. Exodus 2, 1 to 10 is the story of Moses. That this boy was actually not good news to the mother. It wasn't good news to the father. It wasn't good news to the relatives. Why? Because the Nile was waiting. But they saw something that was bigger than the fear. They saw something that was bigger than being ordinary. So ordinary people who saw their ordinary children threw them in the what? In the Nile. But the mother and the father held on. Application of this is that, do you know that you are not an accident? Do you know that somebody held on to you? And that's why you are here. I know there are those who reject their children. There are the guardians who take them up. But let me tell you, somebody held you. Despite of all what? Odds. And I want to thank God for many mothers, many fathers who hold on. Despite what? Challenges. When I was preparing, I remembered the second born. He got malaria, I think he was in nursery. And I remembered him swallowing, he had no saliva. I cried to God that, God, get this malaria and give it to me. You get it? I'm not even a mother. But I'm a what? A father and a praying parent. Why? Because his pain is beyond my pain. So I'm looking at these parents. Yes, an ordinary child. Yes, born in difficult times, but they held on. And this applies also to this current generation. If you're a young person and God gives you a child, please hold on them. Hold on them. It may be difficult, maybe they are disturbing your job, maybe. I met a young girl who is totally confused that they will give, she was refusing to marry. No, she was going to marry, but no child for 3 years because of the shape, that she will lose her shape. Now, if you fear the shape, okay, if you are here and God blesses you, look after what He has given to you. And I'm not only talking about children, I'm talking about every area of your life. Whatever you obtain out of faith, you must maintain in faith. That whatever you obtain out of prayer, you must maintain in what? In prayer. For 3 months, father and mother were praying, God, let Pharaoh not find out. After 3 months, let's see what happened. And you see, this story is interesting because the mother never just threw this lady called Jochebed. And by the way, I have written a book on Moses, apparently. My children, my first book is on Moses, and it will be out soon. Please read. A Jochebed. For her, she just never threw. She began making a what? A basket. And then put her inside. And then placed the baby there. It doesn't matter now. Her faith was like, I won't throw my baby to the crocodiles. My baby will sink after others. You get it? And so, verse, of course, 23, they saw that this is a child who is not ordinary. What did they do? They make a basket. I call it a Jochebed basket. Amram, I think, was also standing near there. And then, interestingly, placed him on top of the what? The Nile. I do not know what she was thinking about Nile crocodiles. I talked about the devil the other day, by the way. When a crocodile comes, it doesn't matter whether you are a baby or not. And then placed Miriam near. Please watch. And I do not know what Miriam was thinking, what was coming. But now, this is interesting. In chapter 2, from verse 5 onwards, it says that the baby was there, and then the Pharaoh's sister came to what? To bathe. May God send help in different what? Circumstances. That in difficult circumstances, instead of a crocodile, who comes? The boss. And who now sees the child? The boss. She opens and the child begins crying. I don't know why she was not crying before. Oh, hallelujah. Faith is good. Sometimes it hides you from your what? Your potential enemies. But quickly, 2 things happen there. She says, I will take away this child from the water. May again God, through faith, take you away from the waters that are about to swallow you. And it doesn't matter by the which type of waters. Secondly, she calls for a nurse. Now, this is more interesting. The nurse who is brought is the mother of what? Moses. You people, I pray that you begin reading the Bible dramatically. A call is made that the baby whom you expect to have died, you are supposed to come and breastfeed him, look after him at a pay. She was paid for 7 years for what she would die to do for nothing. Let me repeat. Because you see an ordinary child, yes, this is no ordinary child, but now I'm called on the phone. Hello, come. I don't know which network was that, but it was Mariam network. Mommy, come. They want somebody to look after what? Moses. 7 years. And because it is the king who has now taken on Moses, you can't touch Moses, you can't touch the mother, you can't touch. I think LCs of that area went to report that she has a baby boy. But the verdict was, look after my child and bring him. That's it, that you can be paid for what you would die to what? To do for free. Again, she gets a verdict for the king protection, but also payment. For again doing what she wants to do. Now I want to dramatize. During those 7 years, I guess, as she breastfed, she said, you are the child of God through Abraham, through Isaac, through Jacob. You get it? Faith means that, yes, you were picked by those people, but you are not of them. Because when we read later, how did Moses know that I'm not of this place? And by the way, he became a general. If you read Joseph, this Moses grew up and he was a general going for raids in Ethiopia and other places. So considered as a what? But for him, he knew where he comes from. So the first thing is faith at birth. And this is the faith not of Moses, but of what? Of parents. Hello. Faith of guardians. Hello. Faith of your pastor. Hello. Faith that moves a mountain, even the one who wants to climb doesn't know. Amen? And that should be it. That people God has put under you, you have a responsibility to pray for them. Faith at birth. That Moses, thank God, entered a family which knew the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then, secondly, it is the faith of somebody who believed. This lady simply believed that maybe there is a probability for my son to live. And my prayer is, you will pray for your brothers and sisters, your cousins, and what were totally lost. And let me tell you, the prayer of faith, God will never what? Reject. So by faith, somebody believed. And by faith, by the way, somebody believed in you. That's why you went to school and you can listen to my English. You get it? There was some level of faith to say, okay, let's just send. You get it? And some of you, of course, F9, he testified. Did you know he testified in English? Yes, that's it. But it was what? And so the push is by what? By faith. That people believed in us. And if you are here and you are looking after a child, whether the parent or not listen to me, believe in that child. The world might reject them, but let me tell you, believe in them. I love women who come to me and say, Reverend, yes, the boy has been swallowed by the world, but I want to believe with you that they can be retrieved. That's it, by the way. If you read Luke chapter 5, there is where a paralytic man is taken. And Jesus looks at those who took him because they first went on top of the church which he was in. I'm using paraphrasing. Removes the tiles and then drops the guy in front of Jesus. And then says, be healed by the faith of what? Those who brought to him. The guy, for him, he was lost. And I pray that we shall continuously pray for the people God has given responsibility over. And that's why children are here. My children are here. The other one is watching, I know, through Zoom, because they normally watch someone so that when we meet, we can discuss. But they know that I pray for them. My wife is here. She knows that we can't sleep, we can't get up without mentioning each child by what? By name. Job chapter 1, verse 5. Every other day he would go and give an offertory in case his children have what? Have seen it. That's the life of a person who has faith in the God of Abraham. Secondly, faith as an adult. Now this is interesting. Verse 24. So we have faith as a child, but now we meet him with faith as an adult. By faith, Moses, when he had grown up, refused to be known as the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to be mistreated along with the people of God rather than to enjoy the fleeting pleasing of sin. This has many applications. The first one is refusal. And let me tell you, friend, if you want to believe in God and remain in that faith, you must refuse. You must refuse to conform. Because many people today, there's a tendency, conform. Conform to the pleasures, conform to property. If you want to get this job, you must do this. Refuse to conform. There is a story in 1 Kings chapter 21 about a man called Naboth. The king comes and says, I want that small vineyard. And then the man says, I cannot sell my inheritance. He refused, and up to his death, together with his sons. But he did what? He refused. And so you are not for sale. Can I repeat? You are not for sale. This evening, let me pray. Father, I pray that you bless each one of us with a sign not for sale. I am not for sale, because I have an inheritance of Abraham, of Isaac, of Jacob. We are not for sale, O Lord, to corruption. We are not for sale in adultery. We are not for sale in the lies of the world, and we shall not conform. And like Naboth, like Moses and many others, this evening we say, allow us to refuse every pattern of the evil one, so that you will be able to save us through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen. Refuse. And by the way, it is so nice to conform. It appears. But this man lives, in my book I actually wondered, you live, nice sleeping, you get up with breakfast prepared, you are going to slaves who are every day being tortured for them to produce bricks. That's refusal, my friend. And I thank God that when you refuse, you become part of his what? His kingdom. So what thing are you going to refuse this evening? Oh, this world is tough, cohabiting, what and what. Let me tell you, refuse. I said on Sunday, it is not wise to come and clean the teeth of a lion. No, you clean it. You haven't brushed the lion. No, it will consume you. It will devour you. So there is nothing that I'm massaging what? Sin. This man refused. And so we are in a generation of, I must refuse. Corruption, yes. It may give what? Yes, it's sex everywhere. You go and even abort. You refuse. And it is tough. It isn't as easy. A man called David had a wife called, I forget her name, but the man is David. The wife was called Sarah. They have South Africa, they are elders in a church. And then the wife cheats and then gets pregnant. And then goes to a clinic to remove the baby. And then when she's there, the voice is that, don't kill. Yeah, but Lord, I'm an elder in a church, what will they say? Don't kill. Go and tell your husband. So she reaches home, tells Bob, Davy, that by the way, I am plague. Now, I am plague. That's now the modern language. Then the man said, how come we finished at this child and there is no way you can be pregnant because certain things happened to me? Yeah, I'm pregnant and you are not the what? The father. So the man rushes to the pastor, we must divorce. The pastor looks at him and says, has God ever forgiven you? He said, yes, but this one is too much. He said, go and love your wife. When they reached home, he said, my wife, I love you. Then she said, I have something to tell you. The one I cheated with is a black boy. Black? Yes. We are white. Yes. We are going to give birth to a what? A black child. Now the dilemma even becomes what? Worse. Then they begin discussing on how to possibly get rid of what? But the man said, no, I'm a Christian. I refuse to give away this child. Just tell our children. And they told their children. They have a book, by the way. You can Google and read it. And guess what? They told the child that mommy cheated. And cheated with a black. And we shall get a child who may not look like us, but he will be your brother or sister. So wait. And on a certain day, Bob Jr., black in color, came. And he's the love of the family. He called him his name. I refuse. Is it easy? No. But I refuse. I refuse, I refuse. Moses now refuses all the pleasures in that kingdom and forsakes and goes. Secondly, he suffered. So refusal has an element of what? Suffering. That you see, if you refuse this bribe, you will suffer big. And it is true. And by the way, I said it on Sunday, bribes come when you are broke. A certain young man will come when you feel that I am now very aged. And these days, very aged is about 28. Oof. But listen to this. He suffered. And the Bible actually says it. That he chose to be mistreated along with the people of God. Faith will allow you to be mistreated with the people of God. And again, it is not easy. Joseph allowed to be what? Mistreated. I am simply a houseboy. I'm working day and night. And Mrs. Boss wants to sleep with me. And he did what they call Josephing. But if you read Genesis chapter 39, verse 9, he says that I cannot sin against my what? My God. And the Jezebel of that family, the next day, pretends that she is, what? Says, bring me that. Once even hand what? Joseph with force. And Joseph runs away and leaves his coat behind. Mistreated. He never went to bring the coat like some of you. You get it. You leave the coat behind. You say, okay, let me pick my coat. No, don't go back. Because Jezebel is what? He's actually waiting. But to cut a long story short, he's put in prison. Not for 2 years, not for 3 years, but for many years. For the sin he never what? Committed. Mistreatment. And so if you are suffering, just read at those people in the Bible. They will encourage you, by the way. And the Bible says, that's in Hebrews chapter 12, that nobody has suffered to the shedding of what? Of blood. And the Bible also says that no temptation has come to you that you can't have a way out. So when things are tough and they are coming from here, and this pressure is coming, refuse. Allowed to be what? Mistreated. This man allowed to be mistreated. But the Bible says, with the people of God. And it is tough to be a Christian today, by the way. What? Are you serious? A whole girl like you got saved? Okay, the wires are off. You get it. So allowed to be what? Mistreated. Because wires are not actually what? They are not off. And there are those of us who are called stupid by very many people. I mean, foolish. How can you be in that position and you put a dash? But let me tell you, I am allowed to be mistreated with the people of what? The people of God. And then the last one is forfeiting. Forfeiting esteem. Now, this man was called a prince. Now he's going to be called a what? A slave. Son of a what? A slave. By the way, we call that change sublimation. From solid to gas without passing through what? Through liquid. From a lot of food to no food without passing through medium food. From clean water to dirty water without passing through semi-clean water. We call it sublimation, and it is tough. Many people are normally going to depression, thinking that they have made the wrong what? The wrong choice. That's why be careful. After passing, you know that's a mountain. There is normally what? A valley. That valley is tough. After wedding, wow, the valley. You just enter the valley. Be careful. Why? Because that's the valley of depression. Of course, if I had time, I would give you many people. But Moses, after delivering children, in Numbers chapter 11, he tells God, I'm tired. I am tired. Please kill me. Can you imagine that? A warrior. Because of depression. Because I thought I would remain on top of a what? A mountain. And by the way, many of us can't handle that. Again, you have gotten a child. Mountain. Then the next day, child falls sick. Or the child begins crying, and you can't handle crying. But depression. So this man was mistreated because he forfeited the pleasures and went into what you would call miserable life. And they were leading miserable what? Life. So be careful. Elijah, after killing how many? 450 prophets of Baal. 1 Kings chapter 18. The next chapter. God, please kill me, chapter 19. Not once, not twice. I am the only one left. What do you think happened? From prince to slave. From warrior to nothing. Let me tell you, that valley is tough. It is tough. But Moses changes. And he's aware that forfeiting these privileges, it has a what? It has a cost. And let me tell you also, Jesus forfeiting his kingdom to come to the cross, it was a what? It was at a heavy cost. Number 3, faith in forsaking. Now he has already forsaken. Let's read verse 27. Very interesting also. That by faith he left Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He persevered because he saw him who is invisible. The faith in forsaking. So when you are in depression, when you are in a valley, what do you normally see? Many people see darkness. Many people see fear. Many people see failure. But let me tell you, this man saw somebody invisible. And that's what they call faith. That while others are whining and saying that this world is tough, Moses was saying that there is a king who is invisible. That there is a king who will protect me. And so I want to encourage you. Some things would have been taken away from you, possibly. Others were abused while they are young. But let me tell you, if you close your eyes, what do you normally see? It can't be failure, no. Please see somebody on the cross. That he endured because he saw somebody what? Invisible. So faith is seeing somebody invisible in tough what? Tough situations. That I have nothing to eat. But then I believe that God will send. And you know, there was a lady, I read it as a joke. But it is not a joke, maybe. That she used to pray for food every other day. And she would even pray when others are hearing. And then somebody brought food that day and said that, by the way, you pray to your God, he doesn't listen to you. I am the devil, I have brought it. Then she said that, you know, God sometimes uses the devil. You get it? Yes, so for her, it is not who brings, it is God has sent something from heaven, seeing an invisible hand in certain what? Circumstances. So what do you normally see? If you have no job, if you have no partner, if your friends have forsaken you, what do you normally see? May you see that invisible hand. There was also a story I read. A lady was from shopping and she had locked the key inside the what? Inside her vehicle. And then she was like, who will open it? Then a certain man with long hair came and used some spanners and opened it. And then she said, oh, you are an angel from God. Thank you, may God bless you. He said, woman, I'm from prison. I normally steal. What? That's how I got the what? The tactics. Then she also said, thank you, God, for sending somebody who knows what to do. Get it? And that's it. Seeing the invisible heart, hand of God. And let me ask you, as I even move towards another faith story over Moses. When you see yourself, what do you see? When you see people that surround you, what did you normally see? When you see what you eat and drink and they go, what do you see? Let me tell you, there is an invisible hand in your life. There is somebody who has been ordering. There is somebody, and by the way, when he will reach, some of us will be crying. He saved you from a border, you just said it is a what? It is a helmet. No, we shall be crying. Why? Because we shall see the reality of that invisible hand. And I pray today you will see that hand. And that hand will go with you. That hand will remove mountains. That hand will be able to show you the way even when it is tough. That's verse 27. Faith in what? In forsaking. You have forsaken, but you have been forsaken, but you have also what? And he's now in exile. Verse 28. Two more things, then I end. Faith at Passover. When you read verse 28, of course the story is told. He goes and then he fights the Midianites, and then the father-in-law of Moses takes him on, and for 40 years he's looking after sheep. By the way, if you have been a prince, and for 40 years you are looking after sheep, definition of failure can't be anything like that. Can I repeat? He wasn't looking after goats or cows. At least sheep. And sheep of who? The father-in-law. No shame. You get it? Do you know father-in-law in Buganda? Okay. You are looking after sheep, but of who? The father-in-law. Go and read the story of this man Saul in chapter 8 of 1 Samuel and chapter 9. Saul leaves home. He's going to look for donkeys, 3 donkeys, which had gotten lost. Now, in Israel, donkeys were the cheapest thing. But for him, he was sent by the father with another man to go and look for what? For donkeys. That was his occupation. Looking for what? For donkeys. And the Bible says, when he was looking for donkeys, he met Samuel, who said, "You are the desire of Israel." While Moses was looking after the father-in-law's sheep, miserable every day for 40 years, that's where he met God on Mount Horeb. And so through that valley, let me tell you, you are to meet God. You are to meet God. And have faith that we are now going to read. Faith at Passover, quickly. Because this is again very interesting. By faith, he kept the Passover and the application of blood so that the destroyer of firstborn would not touch the firstborn of Israel. Who tells the Israelites that, please, slaughter the sheep? He knew how to slaughter the sheep. Then he says, put the blood on the what? On your doorposts. And the destroyer will come to pass. Who is speaking it? Moses. And by the way, he hadn't tested it. He simply had instruction from what? From God. And he saved many. The difference between courage and faith is that courage, yes, I'm able to fight, but faith means, how do I fight? Can you imagine putting blood of a lamb on top of a post and you are saved? I guess some people were like, this is not reasonable. They were not, I think there were some statisticians like me, they are called scientists, that when you really do this, can you imagine? But Moses is the one who said it. And those who did it, the destroyer passed. Let me tell you this. When you have faith and you believe, when you have faith and the word comes to you, when you have faith and you are protected, when you have faith and you are saved, know that the invisible hand is doing certain things. And by the way, that's what they call salvation. That without faith, you can't actually get saved. Because you don't believe in certain things that do what? That save. And John Newton, the one who wrote the Amazing Grace, was actually like that. A slave driver, a seller of slaves. He would even abuse slaves sexually when he's taking them from Africa. And then he gets saved. It never made sense to his friends that the leader of abusers is the one who what? Who is now saying, oh, don't touch her, don't touch him. And he wrote amazing what? Grace. How sweet the sound. Let me qualify this because, of course, I wouldn't preach on music. That music was done in the 18th century, 17 something. But Amazing Grace is still Amazing Grace. So for those of you who follow worldly music, which dies after every year or what, every month actually, take it out of your what? Your rooms, take it out of your vehicles. Allow the children to feed on faith. It is like a Passover sign. When it is time, it will save them. But this worldly music which expires in seconds, I mean, and some of them are very good. Of course, I can't be rational, but even if it is Jim Tokuwa, gone. But Amazing Grace, how come you can't listen to it. South African music which I used to enjoy, nothing but Amazing Grace, how sweet the name. Then the Lord is my rock, the God of my salvation. Moses, about 3,005 years ago. It may not make sense, but let's listen to that. Reading the Bible may not make sense, but let's read the what? The Bible. Passover by faith. Led by what? By Moses. Your faith and what you have can actually save generations. Let me repeat. The faith you have, even today, can save the whole what? The whole generation, the whole family. If you read Genesis chapter 18, specifically verse 18 onwards, when God was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, he remembered Lot because of who? Abraham. And by the way, Lot would have been destroyed except for who? Except for Abraham. So may God remember you. May God even remember the time you have spent here this evening. And he will be able to save certain what? Certain things. The instruction was from Moses on the Passover. The last one, faith at the Red Sea. Now, they transit from Egypt. They reach the Red Sea. The army of Egypt comes from behind. That's Exodus chapter 14. And then there is the Red Sea in front. And Pharaoh actually mentioned, I read it somewhere, that these Israelites are stupid. How can you move toward the sea? Okay, and he sent the whole army, chariots. And the army of Egypt that time, my friend, okay, I can't compare it with the special forces because Trump was almost killed by Matthew Crooks of all names. But anyway, he had an army, and they are going to destroy people who are simply carrying children and all the people going to their home. So it is behind, the Red Sea is in front. Now I want to give you something to do when you reach home. Please read properly, chapter 14. Because it begins by God instructing Moses where to go. Pihahiroth, wherever, please go that side. So the idea of being on the Red Sea is by faith. It is not of Moses. And by the way, he knew the wilderness. So the idea of your life should not be of you. It should come from what? From God. Where you go, what you eat, when you eat it, how you sleep, where you sleep. Let me tell you, pray for God's guidance. Because he knows the future, for you can only know the present. So the instruction to go before the sea is from where? From God. When they reach, those who were educated said, were there no graves in Egypt? The messengers of bad news. On that WhatsApp page, you people, this man is useless, has brought us to die. Hey, that group must have been tough. And Moses, of course, wouldn't put them out. You know how to put somebody out of the group. But they were asking him, were there no graves in what? In Egypt for us and for everybody. In other words, the situation around is tough. And then Moses, maybe you read there. Let's read there. What did he say? 14, 13, and 14. I love that specific chapter. And these are my words to you this evening. Exodus 14, 13, and 14. And again, these are my words, especially when you are in a situation which is very, very tough. Faith at the Red Sea. Things are tough. You are surrounded. But now, what do you say? 14 and from verse 13. Of course, I have already explained what people were saying. I read something on what they are saying. Didn't we say to you in Egypt, leave us alone? Okay, I think this was speaking like in our language. Let us serve the Egyptians. It would have been better for us to serve Egypt than to die in this desert. Now, verse 13. Let me read like in a certain language. Moses answered the people, do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the salvation the Lord will bring you today. Can you imagine? People are quarreling. What is he saying? And I'm saying this to you. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Tell that situation that you will not be afraid. Secondly, stand firm. And some situations it is hard to stand. But let me tell you, my brother, my sister, stand firm. Even when others are falling, stand firm. And you will see the deliverance of the Lord. And not only seeing, but it will be today. So those of you who are sick, see his deliverance today. Those of you who have been praying times, let me tell you, let that deliverance come what? Come today. Then, finally, the Egyptians you see today, you'll never see again. That situations which have been disturbing you for a long time, even you and your family, you will never see what? Again. Who is speaking it? Moses. Chapter 14, verse 1. Then the Lord said to Moses, you get it? It was the word of the what? The word of the Lord. So it doesn't matter what people are telling you. It even doesn't matter your situation today. What matters? What is the Lord saying? That the situation you are seeing today, you will see no more. Of course, the most popular verse in that section, the Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. In other words, Facebook, WhatsApp, shut up. Be still. Be still. This business, oh, my family can't. Just shut up. You'll see the salvation of what? Of the Lord. It doesn't depend on your number of words. I wish they would interview those people who are talking a lot afterwards. So, he now leads them through the Red Sea. And you know what he did? Just the stick. And then, water turns around. The stick, water turns around. And we call it the stick of the Lord, the staff of the Lord. And water what? Reverses. I read somewhere where scientists were now saying, they want to explain it. That you see, the whirlwind, okay, came and the south compared to the north and then the water, okay. God used the whirlwind. Because that whirlwind, when the Egyptians entered, it ceased. So I have more faith in the staff of God than the faith of the what? Of the whirlwinds. So don't believe people who have theories that in your family you will never be this. They don't marry, they will die on this age. No, that's them, not you, in the name of Jesus. So things will turn. things will turn. And let me tell you, even the Jordan, I know one time somebody will preach about it. In Joshua, the Jordan turned 40 kilometers back. Do you understand that? When they saw the glory of God, water stopped like in Entebbe. And 2 million people passed on what? On foot. The difference between Egypt is courage and faith. That those who had faith passed, those who had courage tried to pass. And then it swallowed them. As I end, even Moses after death still had faith. Can you imagine? Let's see what happens, verse 30. And by the way, again, it can be only you in the whole office. And you save the whole what? The whole office. If you read Acts chapter 28, Paul was in a boat. They said that now we are finished. We are going to die after 14 days. Then he got a dream from God. Nobody will die. And when he said it, people were like, are you serious? He said, none will lose even the hair. And that's what happened. He became a commander when he's a prisoner. That God is able to change things by faith. That when you are nothing, you become what? Something. So let me end with this death. Faith after death. Now, he hands over to Joshua. And in Joshua chapter 1, the Lord says, the way I was with you is the way I was with Moses is the way I will be with you. Now let's see whether Joshua is mentioned in verse 30. I read properly. Verse 29, by the faith, people passed through the Red Sea as on the dry land, but when the Egyptians tried to do so, they were drowned. By faith, the walls of Jericho fell after the army had marched around them for 7 days. We are in the faith of Moses. By faith, Moses, verse 23, even after crossing the Jordan and Moses has died, it is by faith. What am I saying? That your faith will actually outlive you. That people will begin speaking about you even when you are long gone. That we are still speaking about Esther, a young girl, 16 years, an orphan, and we can't speak about the king. That we are speaking about Ruum and not speaking about Amin who killed him. That we speak about Daniel, not about Nebuchadnezzar. You know why? The difference was faith. So as I end, the difference between you and your posterity is your faith. That your faith will outlive you to 1 generation to 1,000 generations. If you believe in what? If you believe in your God. That there once lived who? This person, and they put your name. Lord, I pray that each one of us, his name, will live for posterity. I pray that, Lord of Lords, every Pharaoh behind us, every Pharaoh around us will be drowned in the name of Jesus. And that like Moses, our names will be in the book of life. That even tomorrow they will know this lady, this man lived here, that our names will be eternally registered in heaven. So pray for your name. Pray for its sanctification. Pray for posterity. Pray for transition. That from here, yes, your name will not disappear. That there will be somebody who will say, there once lived this person who prayed for me and I was well. They lived this person who helped me and I was better. They lived this person in this office and corruption went. They lived this person in this office and we are okay. Light entered. Father, remember their name. May God remember your name this evening. And those of you with tough names, may he rename you so that like Simon Peter, yes, Peter will be through, and on you he will plant his church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail. Remember each one of them, O Lord. Those who are sick, heal them, Jehovah Rapha. Those who are
feeling that they are not worthy, Jehovah Shekadim, the God of righteousness, will be able to touch you, that like Moses, they will do exploits. Those who have forsaken pleasure, I pray that the pleasure of the Lord will fill you, that the joy of the Lord will be your strength. Those who have forsaken, O Lord, and they are suffering, I pray, Lord of Lords, you will be the fourth person in that fire, so that through suffering, they will be able to see you, and the whole world will know that those who trust you are established like Mount Zion. There is a Redeemer. There is a Redeemer. There is a Redeemer. May you have faith. May you have faith. May you have faith. And those who have little faith, O Lord, I pray that that faith will be now remembered pride, so that when they pray, you will be able to answer. There is a Redeemer. There is a Redeemer. There is a Redeemer, Jesus,
precious,
precious Lamb of God,